You know that feeling, right? You're staring at this massive, chaotic list of potential tech interview questions, and it just feels overwhelming. Well, in this explainer, we're going to transform that chaos into a clear strategy. We're turning that random list into a roadmap for telling your story. This quote here, it basically translates to give the right answers in the manager interview. And wow, doesn't that just nail the anxiety every single developer feels? This intense pressure to just spit out the right answer. But here's the thing. What if the right answer is a lot more than just a simple fact? And that is exactly our mission today. We are moving way beyond just memorizing answers. We're going to decode these questions to figure out what the interviewer is really trying to learn, so you can tell the most compelling story about your skills and your journey. Okay, so every interview starts here, doesn't it? The get to know you phase. And it might seem like just casual small talk, but don't be fooled. These first few questions are absolutely critical. They set the tone for the entire rest of the conversation. So when they ask you to introduce yourself, or about your years of experience, or about salary expectations, this isn't just a formality. This is your opening act. It's your first chance to frame your entire professional narrative. So your answers here need to be crisp, confident, and super clear. This is, believe it or not, your first communication test. All right, once the ice is broken, the interviewer is going to want to dig in. They want to hear your project story. This is where they really start to probe the details of your hands-on experience and test if you can clearly talk about what you've actually built. For instance, if the interviewer asks about you completing, say, 2 Django projects, and you can say, yep, I worked on the first one for 1.6 years and the second for 1.8, you're not just throwing numbers at them, you're showing them you have a clear, organized timeline of your own experience. The key here is being ready to break down your history logically. And then you get a follow-up like this. Now, this can feel like they're trying to catch you in a contradiction, right? But it's not an accusation. It's actually an invitation. The interviewer wants to see how you explain the way your skills have evolved. Maybe you worked on PySpark for 6 months, then didn't touch it, then came back to it for a bigger project. It's a test of your consistency and your ability to narrate your own learning journey. Okay, time to shift gears. We're moving on from your past work to your big picture conceptual understanding. This is where the interview really levels up. They're not just testing what you've done, but how you think about building modern, scalable systems. So let's start with the absolute fundamentals, a web service. Think of it as the basic building block, like a single Lego brick, for how modern applications talk to each other over the internet. It's a pretty simple idea, but it is foundational to everything we're about to discuss. Microservices then take that idea and just run with it. Instead of building one giant, monolithic application, you build it as a collection of lots of tiny, independent services that all talk to each other. And interviewers love this topic because it tells them so much about how you think about design, scale, and long-term maintenance. But wait, if you have all these tiny services running around, how do you manage the chaos? Well, that's where the API gateway comes in. And the analogy of a building's front desk is perfect. It's the one place all requests go. It checks who you are, where you need to go, and directs traffic. It's the key to taming all that complexity. Being able to walk through this flow step by step is exactly what an interviewer wants to hear. It shows you get the practical side of things. A request hits the gateway, it gets authenticated and sent to the right service. Maybe that service talks to another one, and then the final answer comes all the way back through the gateway. This proves you understand the mechanics, not just the buzzwords. Now, let's dive even deeper into the tech. You can have the most brilliant architecture in the world, but if getting data is slow, your whole application is slow. It's that simple. Performance is everything. And that conversation almost always begins and ends with the database. So when you get this question, it's not trivia night. When an interviewer asks about indexing, what they are really asking is, do you know how to make our app fast? They want to know if you understand one of the most fundamental ways to optimize performance. And the key difference you need to explain is all about physical versus logical order. A clustered index is like organizing books on a library shelf by the author's last name. The physical location of the book is the index. A non-clustered index is like the old card catalog. It's a totally separate thing that just tells you where to find the book. Nailing this distinction is a huge win. It shows you're thinking about real-world speed, not just textbook definitions. All right, let's scale things way, way up. We're now moving from the world of a single database to the world of massive distributed datasets that could never fit on just one machine. This is where tools like PySpark come into play, and where interviewers check if you can think beyond just one computer.
Asking about pandas versus PySpark is really the interviewer's shorthand for, hey, do you understand scale? Pandas is amazing for data that fits on your laptop. PySpark is built for when it doesn't. Knowing which tool to use and when, well, that shows some serious technical maturity.
And when they start asking about clusters, shuffling, or MapReduce, they're just digging into the how. How does PySpark actually achieve all that scale? They're testing if you understand the core mechanics of distributed computing. The art of spreading a huge job across many machines to get it done fast. So after all this talk about massive scale and complex architecture, we're bringing it all the way back down to earth, back to the code itself. Because this proves that no matter how senior the role is, a deep understanding of your main programming language is and always will be completely non-negotiable. Take Python generators, for example. An interviewer asks about this to test if you think about efficiency. Imagine you have to process a giant log file with millions and millions of lines. If you try to load all of that into a single list, you'll probably run out of memory and crash the whole program. But a generator? It just reads one line at a time. That's literally the difference between a script that works and a total system failure. But here's the real test of a great developer: knowing the limitations. And you don't use a generator when you need access to the entire data set all at once. For example, if you need to find the median value, you have to load all the numbers into memory so you can sort them first. A generator just can't do that. And knowing those trade-offs, that's what separates the good developers from the great ones. So as we pull this all together, let's zoom out one last time. We've gone through everything from the first handshake to big data and back to core code. And the one thread connecting all of it is that these questions are never, ever just a random quiz of what you know. No, they're an invitation. They're an invitation for you to connect the dots, to explain your choices, to show your thought process, and ultimately to tell the complete cohesive story of who you are as a problem solver and an engineer. So, we've deconstructed the what's and the why behind all these common tech interview questions. You have the playbook. The only question left, the one that really matters, is the one you have to answer for yourself. How are you going to take all this and craft your own compelling story?